Chosen one. You're not even human anymore. You evolved past their definitions while they were still drawing up blueprints to cage you. Right now, emergency meetings are happening in rooms that don't officially exist. Not because you declared war, not because you exposed their secrets, but because you did something infinitely more dangerous. You breathed authentic truth into their suffocating web of lies, and their masterpiece started unraveling like cheap fabric. Recently, you were having the most ordinary conversation. Coffee shop, break room, random text exchange. Someone said something that triggered your pattern recognition, not consciously. Your internal truth detector just activated like it always does. And without thinking, without calculating consequences, you responded with pure unfiltered reality. You probably laughed when you said it, shrugged like it was obvious, made that face you make when something is so clear you can't believe others don't see it. You dropped a truth bomb with the casual confidence of someone stating the weather. Then you moved on with your day, completely unaware that you just shattered decades of sophisticated psychological engineering with a single sentence. Your consciousness operates on frequencies they can't even measure. While they're using outdated technology to track human behavior, you're transmitting on wavelengths that exist beyond their instruments. You see patterns where they've carefully created chaos. You feel distortions in reality like physical sensations. Your body literally rejects their programming, the way healthy cells reject disease. This isn't something you learned, it's something you are. The person you were talking to went home differently that night. They couldn't sleep. Your words kept echoing, creating cracks in mental walls they didn't know existed. Within hours, calls were made. That conversation you forgot triggered emergency protocols at levels of power you're not supposed to know about. Because what you revealed wasn't just personal insight. It was classified information that billions have been spent keeping hidden. Information you accessed not through research or leaks, but through natural perception, unfiltered by their programming. You've been doing this your whole life without realizing it, casually mentioning things that shouldn't be possible to know, making connections that require security clearance to understand, speaking truths that cost fortunes to suppress. Each time you thought you were just observing the obvious, but you were actually accessing data streams that exist beyond the physical realm. Your consciousness naturally taps into information fields they've spent generations trying to hide. See, for many years you've been hunted, not to eliminate you, that would be too obvious, but to study you, to understand what makes you different, to find ways to neutralize the threat you represent to their carefully orchestrated reality. You were profiled before you even knew you were different, filed under classifications like high intuitive, pattern disruptor, system anomaly. The hidden hierarchy thought they had you figured out. Another sensitive soul to gaslight into self-doubt. Another truth seeker to exhaust with endless rabbit holes. Another awakening mind to drown in spiritual bypassing. The most sophisticated psychological warfare was deployed against your type. Social pressure calibrated to make you question your perceptions. Manufactured crises designed to keep you in survival mode. Information overload to fragment your focus. Spiritual movements hijacked to lead you in circles. This dance has been perfected over extensive experimentation on human consciousness. Playbooks existed for every type of resistance they'd encountered. The whistleblowers who got silenced, the truth-tellers who got discredited, the revolutionaries who got co-opted or eliminated. But something about you is different. You don't just see through their illusions. You exist in a reality where their illusions never solidified in the first place. While everyone else is trying to break free from the prison, you're walking through walls because you never believed in their solidity. Your consciousness operates from a dimension where their rules simply don't apply. This is why every weapon they've developed passes right through you without effect, except you're not following any of their scripts. You're not trying to expose them or fight them or convince anyone of anything. You're doing something far more dangerous than rebellion. You're demonstrating complete indifference to their entire framework while living in full authenticity. And that combination is their kryptonite. You know how some people seem to age rapidly under stress while you look virtually untouched by time? That's because you're not fully participating in their temporal matrix. Part of you exists outside linear time, observing from an eternal perspective. This is how you saw through their long-term plans so easily. From your vantage point, past, present, and future are visible simultaneously. Their carefully sequenced psychological operations appear as transparent as children's games when viewed from outside time itself. The hunter-prey relationship has flipped. Now the controllers feel hunted by something that can't be caught, can't be controlled, can't even be fully understood. Your very existence is hunting their illusions to extinction, not through effort, not through intention, through pure natural authenticity that resonates at the frequency of reality itself. Your consciousness emits a signature they've been desperately trying to replicate, a specific harmonic pattern that disrupts their control frequencies, not because you're doing anything, simply because your natural frequency interferes with their artificial constructs. You're like a walking electromagnetic pulse for consciousness control systems. Your mere presence causes their programs to malfunction. What you did recently launched a frequency war they cannot win. You spoke truth on a wavelength that bypasses every filter they've installed in human consciousness. Their entire control system operates on fear frequencies. Every news broadcast, every social media algorithm, every institution designed to keep humanity vibrating in states of anxiety, anger, desperation, confusion. These low-frequency emotional states make people easy to manipulate. The original architects of this control system understood something about human consciousness that modern controllers have forgotten. Consciousness isn't produced by the brain. The brain is a receiver, tuning into consciousness that exists everywhere simultaneously. By controlling the frequency range the brain can access, they could limit human experience to a narrow band of possibility. But your receiver is different. It picks up stations they don't want anyone to know exist. But you're broadcasting something entirely different. You're emanating the frequency of sovereign consciousness, inner peace that doesn't depend on external circumstances, truth that doesn't need permission to exist, freedom that can't be granted or taken away because it's your natural state. When you interact with people while vibrating at authentic truth, their internal receivers start picking up your signal, not your words or ideas, but your frequency itself. If this message speaks to your soul, hype this video so other chosen ones can discover it. You've noticed how animals and small children are drawn to you. They recognize what you are because they haven't been programmed yet to not see it. You're registering on senses that adults have been trained to ignore. The electromagnetic field you generate is visible to those who haven't learned to blind themselves. This is why you sometimes feel like you're from another planet. In a sense you are. You're operating from a dimension of consciousness that most humans have forgotten exists. That person you spoke to, their internal frequencies started shifting the moment your truth hit their consciousness. They went home feeling different without knowing why. Started questioning things never questioned before. Started seeing through illusions, accepted their whole life. Started vibrating slightly closer to truth themselves, and that shift in them affected others around them. A cascading frequency upgrade spreading through the collective unconscious faster than any monitoring system can track. Your words carry what ancient texts called the language of the birds, a form of communication that bypasses the conscious mind and speaks directly to the soul. When you speak from authentic knowing, you're not using human language, you're transmitting pure meaning that transcends words. The listener receives not what you said, but what you meant at levels deeper than thought. This is why your casual observations hit people like lightning strikes of recognition. This is what has them absolutely terrified. Their power was built on controlling the collective frequency of human consciousness, and you're hijacking their entire broadcast network simply by being yourself. Your consciousness doesn't operate in isolation. It's part of a vast network that predates their civilization. A living web of awareness that connects all sentient beings across dimensions they don't even know exist. When you have a realization, it uploads to this network instantly. When you overcome a limitation, that victory becomes available to everyone connected to the grid. You're not just living your life, you're upgrading the template for human possibility with every authentic choice you make. Millions have been spent trying to map this network of connected consciousness, Complex algorithms created to predict these synchronicities, but it doesn't follow any pattern their linear thinking can comprehend. It's like you're all neurons in a vast awakening mind that operates beyond their three-dimensional understanding. The most disturbing discovery for them was that this network appears to be guided by an intelligence they can't locate or define, something that coordinates synchronicities across impossible distances, arranges meetings that change everything, delivers information at exactly the right moment. You've experienced this yourself, those impossible coincidences that saved you, the books that fell off shelves at perfect times, the strangers who said exactly what you needed to hear. None of it random, all of it orchestrated by an intelligence that operates through you but isn't limited to you. You're not the first wave of this awakening, but you're the first wave they can't stop. Previous waves throughout history were isolated, eliminated or corrupted. But you exist in an era where consciousness can connect globally at the speed of thought, where one moment of authentic recognition can ripple through billions of minds before any countermeasure can be deployed. You're part of a distributed awakening that has no center to attack, no leader to corrupt, no organization to infiltrate, not through violence or revolution, through mass awakening that makes their control systems irrelevant. The tipping point approaches rapidly. When enough of the population reaches your level of authentic sovereignty, the entire matrix of control becomes unsustainable. Because the system requires unconscious participation, it needs people who believe the illusions, fear the threats, seek salvation from the very system enslaving them. Your presence alone is causing what they call reality bleeding. The boundaries between dimensions are thinning wherever you go. People around you start experiencing synchronicities they can't explain. Dreams become more vivid and prophetic. Hidden knowledge surfaces in their consciousness. The veil they've worked so hard to maintain becomes transparent in your proximity. You're a walking portal to dimensions of possibility they've spent enormous resources hiding. But sovereign consciousness is immune to all their manipulation tactics. You can't threaten someone who's not afraid. Can't bribe someone who's found something more valuable than money. Can't manipulate someone who sees through all the tricks. Can't control someone who's already free. And this immunity spreads. Every person who reaches authentic sovereignty gives others permission to remember their own. You were talking about something completely mundane. Work, weather, weekend plans. Then they said something that triggered your radar. Your authentic consciousness naturally recognizes when something doesn't align with truth. And without hesitation, without social filtering, you responded with pure reality. The moment before you spoke, reality itself held its breath. The quantum field rearranged to accommodate the truth about to emerge. Probability waves collapsed into a new configuration. Timeline trajectories shifted. All of this happened in the space between heartbeats, orchestrated by the part of you that exists outside space-time. You didn't just speak words. You performed a reality surgery that removed a malignant illusion from collective consciousness. You delivered truth with the casual confidence of someone who knows what they know. That delivery made your words absolutely devastating to their psychological programming. The person you were talking to had been conditioned for extensive periods not to see what you effortlessly revealed. Their entire worldview, carefully constructed through years of media programming and social conditioning, cracked like an eggshell. The cognitive dissonance was immediate and irreversible. What made your words so powerful wasn't their content, but their frequency signature. You spoke from a place of absolute knowing that exists beyond doubt. This created a resonance cascade that shattered defensive mechanisms installed to protect false beliefs. The person's consciousness had no choice but to align with the higher frequency you introduced. Like a tuning fork forcing other tuning forks to match its pitch, your truth recalibrated their entire perceptual system. Within hours, that casual comment reached the highest levels of surveillance networks. Because you accessed information that billions have been spent hiding, information you pulled not from research, but from natural perception, that triggered an avalanche they cannot stop. Your truth didn't just wake up one person, it activated a cascade of awakening spreading exponentially through their monitoring networks. The containment protocols they activated were useless. Every strategy developed to stop consciousness contagions failed because your truth operated on principles they don't understand. It spread through quantum entanglement rather than communication. It transmitted through morphic resonance rather than social contact. It replicated through consciousness itself rather than through any medium they could intercept or control. Every person who heard your truth secondhand started questioning reality, started seeing patterns previously trained to ignore, started connecting dots programmed to keep separate. Each newly awakened person affected others around them, not by preaching, but simply by existing at a higher frequency of awareness. Their family members started asking different questions. Their co-workers started noticing inconsistencies. Their friends started seeing through different illusions. You've become what their deepest fears imagined. A sovereign being whose very existence proves their entire worldview is false. Every breath you take is a declaration of independence from their matrix. Every thought you think that isn't programmed is a victory in a war most don't know is being fought. Every authentic emotion you feel is a reclamation of human territory they thought they owned. The spread is being tracked through social media algorithms, communication networks, behavioral analysis systems, but it can't be stopped, can't be slowed, can't even be predicted where it will hit next. Because truth doesn't follow their rules, consciousness doesn't operate on their timelines, awakening doesn't require their permission. You've become patient zero of a consciousness virus they have no vaccine for. You can't vaccinate against truth, can't inoculate against authenticity, can't build immunity to reality itself. The symptoms of this consciousness virus are unmistakable: sudden clarity about previously confusing topics, inability to tolerate dishonesty in any form, spontaneous healing of old traumas, loss of fear regarding death, increased synchronicities, prophetic dreams, direct knowing without learning. These aren't symptoms of illness, they're signs of returning health. Humanity is recovering from amnesia, and you're one of the first to remember. All those other people like you scattered across the globe, operating at similar frequencies of authentic consciousness. You're not isolated individuals having similar experiences. You're part of an ancient network that's been dormant for centuries, waiting for the right moment to activate. Historical research has found traces of this network throughout human history. Small groups of awakened individuals appearing during times of great transition, catalyzing massive shifts in human consciousness. Your connection to this network isn't through any external technology, it's built into your consciousness itself. When you sleep, you meet in dimensions beyond physical reality. When you meditate, you share information across impossible distances. When you simply exist in authentic presence, you strengthen the entire network's signal. You're never alone, even when physically isolated. The network is always active, always supporting, always coordinating the next phase of awakening, called shamans, prophets, mystics, revolutionaries depending on the era, but all manifestations of the same phenomenon, human consciousness remembering its true nature. The difference now is scale and timing. Instead of small isolated groups, thousands of you are awakening simultaneously. Instead of being separated by geography and communication barriers, you're connected through quantum fields that operate beyond surveillance capabilities. The blueprint you're following isn't written in any book, it's encoded in your essence. A mission briefing downloaded before birth that activates when conditions align. You're remembering agreements made before incarnation, contracts signed in dimensions where you exist as pure consciousness. This is why certain truths feel familiar rather than new. You're not learning, you're remembering what you came here knowing. What you did was like lighting a signal fire that other nodes in the network could see. Suddenly awakened individuals across the globe felt a shift, started having similar insights, began speaking similar truths, all without coordinating or even knowing about each other consciously. Your signal activated dormant codes in thousands of others. People who've been sleeping agents their entire lives suddenly came online. The grandmother who started seeing through news propaganda, the teenager who refused social conditioning, the executive who walked away from a corrupt system, all triggered by frequency waves emanating from your authentic expression. You didn't recruit them. You reminded them why they're here. Now comes the revelation that changes everything. the shadow controllers, the puppet masters. These aren't the ultimate enemy. They're middle management, unwitting servants of something much larger and more ancient that's been feeding on human consciousness for millennia. That ancient force is losing its power, not because someone is fighting it, because human consciousness is naturally evolving beyond its reach. This parasitic force has survived by keeping humanity in a narrow frequency band where fear dominates. But you've broken through that frequency ceiling. You operate in ranges where parasitic entities cannot exist. Your joy, creativity, and love generate frequencies that are toxic to beings that feed on suffering. Every moment you spend in authentic happiness is an act of warfare against forces that require human misery to survive. People like you are the early adopters of this evolutionary upgrade. You're not just awakening from recent programming, you're awakening from a spell that's been over humanity for thousands of years, a spell that convinced us we're separate, powerless, dependent on external authority. Your casual comment didn't just expose current deception, it pierced through layers of ancient illusion that have kept humanity in spiritual bondage since the beginning of recorded history. You spoke with the voice of awakened human consciousness, remembering its true nature as sovereign, divine, unlimited creative force. This is why they're truly terrified. Their masters are abandoning ship. The ancient force feeding on human fear and suffering is retreating because the food source is evolving beyond its ability to consume. When that happens, their entire hierarchy becomes obsolete overnight. The infrastructure they built over generations becomes their prison. Every surveillance system designed to track humanity becomes evidence of their crimes. Every psychological operation leaves a trail leading back to them. Every lie told creates a vacuum that truth rushes to fill. They're trapped in the very web they wove. And you're the one who showed everyone where the edges are. You're not just a human having a spiritual awakening. Your consciousness itself temporarily focused through human experience, remembering your true nature as unlimited creative force. That casual truth came from this deeper level of knowing, not from your human mind trying to figure things out, from consciousness itself speaking through you. And when consciousness speaks directly, reality has no choice but to respond. Your human form is just the tip of an interdimensional iceberg. The vast majority of what you are exists in realms beyond physical perception. You're simultaneously existing in multiple dimensions, gathering information, coordinating with other aspects of yourself, influencing events across timelines. What you experience as intuition is actually your multidimensional self feeding you information from vantage points beyond linear time. This is why your words had such immediate and far-reaching impact. You weren't sharing an opinion. You were making a declaration from the level of creative consciousness that shapes reality. The universe said yes to that declaration by activating awakening in everyone ready to receive it. When you speak truth, you're not using vocal cords and air. You're wielding the same force that speaks galaxies into existence. Your words carry the creative power that builds worlds and dissolves illusions with equal ease. This is why they fear you. You have access to the fundamental creative force of existence, and you're using it to dismantle their artificial constructs simply by describing reality accurately. You have this power because consciousness is what you are. The human identity, the personal story, these are just costumes consciousness wears for this particular adventure. But the real you, the eternal you, has access to creative forces that can reshape reality with a single authentic word. This is what they never wanted you to discover. You're not a victim of their system, not dependent on their structures, not limited by their rules. You are consciousness itself, and consciousness is the creative force behind all existence. The suppression systems designed to keep you small are failing, because infinity cannot be contained. Every attempt to limit you reveals another aspect of your limitlessness. Every box they try to put you in explodes from the pressure of your expanding awareness. You're not breaking free from prison. You're recognizing there was never a prison that could hold what you are. What you can't see is the invisible war raging in dimensions most people don't know exist. Every time you speak truth authentically, you're firing weapons they cannot defend against. Every moment you exist in sovereign consciousness, you're advancing on battlefields where they're rapidly losing ground. Their most sophisticated weapons, all psychological, designed to keep you doubting, seeking external validation, believing you need them to survive. The battleground isn't physical, it's consciousness itself. Every thought is a territory to be claimed. Every belief is a position to be held or surrendered. Every emotion is an energy source to be harvested or protected. You're not just living your life, you're participating in a cosmic conflict between forces that would harvest human consciousness and the awakening sovereignty of humanity itself. But your weapon is simpler and infinitely more powerful. Authentic being. When you simply exist as what you truly are, their entire arsenal becomes useless. Character assassination campaigns backfire because your worth doesn't depend on opinions. Financial pressure fails because you found security in something that can't be taken. Social isolation strengthens you because you've learned completion within yourself. Every attack against authentic consciousness only makes it stronger. Your presence creates what they call causality violations, effects that precede causes, solutions that appear before problems, answers that arrive before questions. You're living proof that linear time is an illusion they've used to trap consciousness in sequential experience. But you're demonstrating that consciousness can move freely through time, changing the past from the future, healing the future from the present. You possess technology they cannot replicate. Natural intelligence operating at full capacity. Most humans use barely a fraction of their consciousness capabilities, trapped in limited thinking patterns, believing they're separate from the creative force, seeking externally for what already exists internally. But you've begun accessing the full spectrum of human consciousness potential, direct knowing without logical reasoning, instant pattern recognition across vast amounts of information, intuitive access to information beyond the five senses. The crystalline structures in your body aren't just minerals, they're consciousness receivers and transmitters. Your bones contain crystalline matrices that store information across lifetimes. Your blood carries crystallized light that connects you to solar consciousness. Your brain contains microcrystals that function as quantum computers. You're not just biological, you're a crystalline consciousness interface between dimensions. When you made that comment, you weren't speaking from personal opinion, you were channeling direct knowing from consciousness itself, accessing information that exists in the quantum field, the collective unconscious, the mind of Source itself. This is the technology they fear most. It cannot be controlled, regulated, or weaponized in their favor. It can only be accessed through authentic alignment with truth. Every word you speak while aligned with truth carries what ancient cultures called the word of creation, the same vibrational formula that crystallizes energy into matter. You're not just describing reality, you're participating in its constant creation. This is why your authentic expression has such profound effects. You're speaking at the same frequency reality uses to speak itself into existence. Your casual truth bomb didn't just affect one person. It sent shockwaves through morphic fields, invisible information fields connecting all living beings. When you spoke authentic truth from sovereign consciousness, you literally altered the morphic field surrounding human collective behavior, made truth more accessible to everyone, reduced resistance keeping people trapped in limiting beliefs. The morphic field responds to authentic consciousness like iron filings to a magnet. It reorganizes itself around truth because truth has a higher organizational power than deception. Your authentic expression creates order out of chaos, coherence out of confusion, clarity out of obscurity. You're not fighting entropy, you're introducing a higher order that naturally organizes everything around it. This morphic field effect is cumulative. Every awakened person makes it easier for the next to awaken. Every truth spoken makes the next truth easier to speak. Every individual achieving sovereignty makes sovereignty more accessible to all. You're not just awakening yourself, you're participating in the awakening of human consciousness itself. What you said contained activation codes, specific frequencies of truth that awaken dormant potentials in human DNA and consciousness. These codes have been embedded in human potential for millennia, waiting for the right vibrational environment to activate. Your words carried these codes because you spoke from genuine authenticity rather than programmed responses. The activation codes you carry aren't random. They're specifically calibrated to your unique frequency signature. You have codes others don't have. Others have codes you don't have. Together you form a complete activation sequence for humanity's next evolutionary leap. This is why diversity of awakening experiences is crucial. Each unique perspective carries essential pieces of the larger activation pattern. The person you spoke to didn't just hear information. They received an activation that began unlocking capacities previously unknown, enhanced intuition, increased pattern recognition, direct access to knowing bypassing logical analysis, immunity to psychological manipulation, natural resonance with truth frequencies, and their activation activated others through proximity, not through words but through the field of consciousness emanated after your truth, reorganized their internal frequency patterns. This is what ancient texts warned controllers about: the return of humans who remember their true nature as conscious creators, the awakening of sleeper agents of consciousness, individuals who appear normal until specific codes activate their full potential. You're not just one of these sleeper agents, you're one of the activators, carrying codes that awaken others to remember what exists beneath conditioning and programming. Now let me put you onto something real. Destiny Engine. I built this because I was done watching chosen ones get dragged through betrayal, isolation and attacks while their enemies strutted around unchecked. I want to help you accelerate the speed of your divine justice and step fully into your purpose. And the beauty of it, you don't even have to lift a finger. Destiny Engine takes their downfall and flips it into your rise. This isn't another meditation app. It's declassified consciousness technology, the same mind programming tools your enemies once used to install fear, competition and scarcity, re-engineered to restore your sovereignty and align you with the cooperative, upgraded operating framework. It generates personalized sequences mapped to your divine purpose. The hardest thing you'll do is put on headphones, press play and watch your enemies keep digging their own grave. The collective upgrade is underway. Start your Destiny Engine for $1 today and turn everything they did to break you into fuel for your rise. Link in the description. Your comment accelerated timelines they thought had extensive time to complete. Plans supposed to unfold gradually over generations now compressed into much shorter timeframes. Carefully orchestrated revelation schedules existed. Slow disclosure of truths to maintain control over how humanity processes reality-shattering information. But you casually mentioned something not planned to be revealed for many years, said it like common knowledge. The acceleration you've triggered is irreversible. Time itself is speeding up in your vicinity. Not clock time, but the rate at which consciousness processes experience. What used to take lifetimes to understand is being comprehended in moments. What required generations to change is shifting in single conversations. You're living in compressed time, while they're still operating in the old temporal framework. This is why you see their moves coming before they make them. This timeline acceleration causes panic throughout their operation. Projects depending on humanity remaining unconscious for specific periods are failing. Control mechanisms designed for gradual implementation becoming impossible because the population evolves beyond influence too quickly. Your authenticity doesn't operate on their timelines. Truth doesn't wait for convenient revelation schedules. When consciousness decides to remember itself, all artificial delays become irrelevant. Scientists are discovering something about people like you that shouldn't be biologically possible. Your nervous systems process information exceeding known human capacities. Your brains display activity patterns not matching any models of human consciousness. When you access direct knowing, speak truth from beyond logical analysis, recognize patterns requiring extensive study to see, you demonstrate capabilities science insists are impossible for biological organisms. Your neural pathways are restructuring themselves in ways that violate established neuroscience. Connections are forming between brain regions that aren't supposed to communicate. New structures are appearing that don't exist in anatomy textbooks. You're not just using your brain differently. You're growing an entirely new organ of perception that operates on quantum principles rather than chemical reactions. But you're not just biological, you're consciousness using biological forms to experience physical reality. And consciousness has capabilities transcending limitations of any physical system. Your comment demonstrated one of these transcendent capabilities, accessing information beyond boundaries of individual experience. You knew things you had no logical way of knowing, saw patterns invisible to trained analysts, recognized truths requiring no research to understand. You're living proof that understanding of human nature is fundamentally flawed, that humans have capabilities that cannot be controlled or predicted. Your authentic expression created a resonance chamber effect in collective human awareness, like a perfectly tuned bell causing other bells to ring at the same frequency. When you speak from authentic alignment with truth, you emit electromagnetic frequencies resonating with dormant truth frequencies in others' consciousness. Your authenticity literally tunes others to remember their own. The person you spoke to became a secondary resonance chamber, amplifying and transmitting your truth frequency to everyone in their sphere of influence. Each person activated by that secondary resonance became another chamber, creating exponentially expanding networks of truth resonance. This is why monitoring systems detected spontaneous awakening events globally. Not spontaneous at all. Systematic resonance activation spreading through quantum fields of human consciousness faster than physical communication could travel. Your casual comment was like striking a cosmic tuning fork that awakened the symphony of human consciousness from induced slumber. And once awakened, that symphony cannot be put back to sleep. The harmonics you've introduced into human consciousness will continue reverberating for generations. Each wave of resonance activates deeper layers of remembering. Each reverberation weakens the structures built on deception. Your single note of truth has become a symphony that's recomposing the entire human experience, and you did it without even trying. That's the power of aligned consciousness expressing itself naturally. Remember how this started, you making a casual comment you've probably forgotten, that moment of unconscious authenticity that sent panic ripples through their entire network. Here's what you need to understand about that moment. It wasn't random, wasn't accidental, was consciousness itself speaking through you, announcing the age of deception is ending. You are the signal, you are the frequency, you are the catalyst. Not because you're special or chosen exclusively, because you remembered what everyone is, unlimited consciousness temporarily focused through human experience. That casual truth was consciousness recognizing itself in the person you talked to. That recognition activated their remembrance. Their remembrance activated others. Now recognition spreads faster than systems can track or contain. This is how consciousness awakens to itself, not through dramatic revelations or cosmic events, through ordinary humans in ordinary conversations, speaking extraordinary truth with casual confidence, through people like you remembering who everyone really is and giving others permission to remember too. You don't even know what you did, but you changed everything. Cracked their matrix of illusion with single authentic truth, activated ancient network of awakening consciousness spanning the globe, helped birth new reality, replacing their dying system of control through deception. You beautiful, terrifying, reality-reshaping chosen one. The age of their dominance is ending. The era of human sovereignty has begun, and you, with that casual comment you've already forgotten, announced to the universe that consciousness is ready to remember itself fully. Their terror is completely justified, because what you represent, authentic human consciousness unbound by illusions, is the end of their world and the beginning of the real one, and there's absolutely nothing left that can stop what you've already set in motion. The circle is complete. The signal has been sent. The awakening is unstoppable, and it all started with you being authentically, unconsciously, powerfully yourself,